Nothing ever good's when you're distracted and you're not staring straight ahead. When you're at work and you look off and then you look back, it's like, oh, I was supposed to do that email. Everything you do in life, like
when you're recording a podcast and the Sixers are on or the Phillies are on behind you.
Yeah, it's like if you had a podcast and it was set up so that right next to the light was your television and like there was a Philadelphia sporting event on, and instead of staring at the camera like you're supposed to and they tell you to, you look off to the left so that you can see what the score is of the game.
Or when you're recording a podcast and then you can see the producer's little camera underneath and he's making his bed, sometimes things happen.
That's very funny.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones. Upset alert. Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there. There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach.
That is the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 136 of Birds vs. Boys as we look ahead to week 11. But sadly, Aidan, this is probably going to be our last podcast of the season, because if you go on Eagles Twitter, if you go on Cowboys Twitter, after this past weekend with the Cowboys losing in Green Bay and the Eagles having their first loss of the season, it seems like both seasons are over. So I don't think there's a reason for us to move forward the rest of this season. We were on such a high, both teams doing so well, each get a loss, tough losses. I think it's just over. We should pack it in and not continue the rest of the season.
Finally, someone's matching my energy. Everything's horrible and abysmal. I hate losing. That was the worst. That was the dumbest way to lose. That was dumb. That was dumb. That was so dumb. Everything about it was dumb.
You talking to me about dumb losses right now?
Yes. No. Ours was worse.
Easy. You were not. You played like shit the whole game.
Exactly.
You knew it was going to be one of those games. Yes, that sucks. But you're not up 14 points in the fourth quarter, and then you have penalty. You have a rookie wide receiver line up offsides in overtime. No, our loss was worse.
It's a bad spot to be in when we're arguing which loss was worse instead of which team was better. But that's kind of the flavor of the week. That was just dumb. That was miserable. I forgot how much I hated losing, but also I've watched Philly teams lose hundreds of times in my life, if not thousands. That was one of the most frustrating losses, like regular season wise, that I've just ever seen for so many reasons. And people will be like, oh, well, it's good to get the loss out of the way, or, oh, you can't blame the refs. No. I hate losing. I don't like losing. That's it.
No, I agree with it. And it's interesting because I said it to my wife watching the game. I tweeted it. Like, I felt like I watched that exact game. Eagles, Washington, prime time, that exact game with those two teams playing probably 75 times, just with the opposite outcome. It was always that, okay, Washington's in this. Okay, they're leading at the half. But I turned to my wife and I said, okay, Washington has done everything right in the first half. Everything has fallen correctly for them, and they're only up 6. You know what this means. But this time, it didn't mean that.
I was going to say, until the Brandon Graham fake penalty where a loser who is a career loser who was on a mediocre franchise for a franchise who's been a loser flopped and wanted a penalty. That's the first time where I was like, we're actually going to lose. Like that whole time I thought we were going to win no matter what was going on. So I'm sure we'll continue to complain, but we have to look ahead to this week. Another big guest this week, Real Mama Eagle, is going to be on with us here in a bit. We're going to be talking Eagles, Colts. Big one now. Can't lose back-to-back. Vikings won last week. Huge win. Now you're tied, even though we have the tiebreaker. So she'll be on Inside the Eagles. She writes for, and then just a huge Twitter and YouTube following. So we're excited to talk to her and look ahead to this week, because now it's over half the season. It's crunch time. We know our strengths. We know our weaknesses. This is it. This is where it gets interesting.
We're in the trenches now, right? Especially in this division now. Eagles sitting at 8-1. Giants 7-2, Dallas 6-3, Washington 5-5. The best record of any division in the entire NFL, with a realistic possibility with all four teams making the playoffs.
Which is cool. I will say that, because remember the COVID year when everyone's making fun of the NFC East, and it was like so frustrating because my entire life, the NFC East has been pretty good. Like, it's not exactly the AFC South. So to be in this position where you're right, it could be 4 teams. It's looking like at least 3. I saw a tweet, and we talked about this on the Cowboys reaction show that we did. Follow us on YouTube, subscribe, like the videos, comment. Well, maybe comment. Depends on what you say. I was fired up this week, but yeah, I was mad. I hate losing.
You had so much fun recording the reaction show with me and my misery, and then just like 6 hours later, you were miserable.
Like, yeah, well, that kind of sounds like my entire life, but that's just how it goes. But it is cool just to see that competitive fire that this division has, and going forward, I saw somebody tweet that this could end the Cowboys' playoff chances, and that's just not true. Like, that's a playoff team. Look around the other divisions, like who's sneaking up on the Cowboys that they're not going to make it in the NFC South. That's not the division winning Bucks. Like, are the Panthers going to turn it around now that Baker Mayfield's in? Is Justin Fields, the fantasy wonder, going to lead the Bears to 8 straight wins, even though they lost to the Lions on Sunday? Like, who is it that's taking the spot of the Cowboys? Come on,
Packers.
Maybe.
I just, you know me, right? I'm a lot of people, I go into games pessimistic. I am a realist. I'm not a DC4L. I don't see everything is rainbows and sunshine, and all I do is cheer for my team because they're going to win. No, I'm a realist, right? So I went into that Packers game with a feeling that I didn't have a feeling that this was going to happen. I just thought it was going to be that type of game where Aaron Jones goes off and Aaron Rodgers finds a way to make a Watson look like Devontae Adams. So it's, but now going forward, right now they have to go to Minnesota. And I look at these things too, right, Aidan? Like, the Packers had won 5 in a row. Was Aaron Rodgers really going to lose 6 in a row?
Lost 5.
It's tough, right? And now I'm looking at going to the Vikings, where Dallas has won 3 straight games at Minnesota. Is their luck really going to give them to be able to win 4 straight games in that building where it's hard to win?
I think so.
You thought so last week.
That's true. That is fair. And the Packers offense is pretty inept, but I didn't know if they were going to. I didn't know if they were going to win. But you were like, could you see the Packers offense being bad again? And I'm like, yes. But I could see the Cowboys winning this week.
I could see the Cowboys winning. I could, but it's like, okay, you go against that Packers offense that you just said has been abysmal, right? And you get run all over, and Aaron Rodgers, again, like I said, a rookie catches 3 touchdowns. Now you go back on the road in a tough environment, playing against Dalvin Cook and the best receiver in the game, and Justin Jefferson.
He is insane. And all right. All of those points you just made are valid. Even still, I think the emotion that comes into it, and I think that's why the Packers won. It's like, things are going so bad. Like, we're just better than this. Like, we won that. We're prime time. We're at Lambeau. This is as Lambeau as it gets hosting the Cowboys. And they won, and they pulled it off. But I think the Vikings put so much emotional intensity and effort into that win on the road against the Bills that it's slip-up time. And I would just like to go on record. We're going to do our TikTok power rankings, obviously. I do have a lot of respect for the Vikings now. They have earned it. They should have earned everybody's respect after that. That was a great win. That was one of the most quality wins of the season.
Yes,
so let's respect
100%.
them. But I can still see the Cowboys going in there and winning this game. I'm just so lost with the Cowboys because I just feel like you'll watch them for 3 quarters and you'll say this is the playoff team. Then you'll watch a quarter and you're like, why? You just say why to yourself for 15 straight minutes of football.
Well, so that's what happens then, right? They go to Minnesota, they find a way to win, and then they're going to lay an egg on Thanksgiving against the Giants.
Correct. That is, if I was doing predictor, I would have said lost Packers, win Vikings, lost Giants. To be completely honest with you,
that's just like nothing changes with this team. It's
No.
just like you can see it from 5 miles away. They're like, yep, this is what's going to happen.
Really good roller coaster. You walk into the park and you're like, well, that's a loop. That's a loop. That's a loop. And then you're like, well, I'm going to get on the ride anyway. It looks fun.
You're like, that part of the loop, there's part of the track missing.
Yeah.
We're going to try it anyway.
You're like, then you're on it and you're like, oh, my neck is upside down right now.
And then, like, outside of the games, it's just everything else happening, right? It's Odell Beckham, where they still are not stopping talking about it. I was listening to the radio station with Jerry Jones, and he's still talking about Odell. It's just like, I understand. And they literally flat out asked Jerry Jones, okay, players want him, coaches seem to want him, you love him, why isn't it done?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, first you got to ask yourself the question here, boys. You know, why? You got to ask this. Why is it available? Why is he available right now? That's the question you have to ask. And they're like, okay. So I get it. There's the injury. He may not be cleared yet. It's also, I think, his side is slow playing things because there's multiple teams involved. So they're trying to get the most value as possible. I get all that. But, you know, make something happen. Instead, they go out and they sign Antonio Callaway and Takk McKinley. Was this 2017? I'm okay with it. It's practice squad. But
yeah, I was like, for practice squad signings, I didn't think it was that bad. But I think Takk McKinley, I don't know if he can.
He's a job. I mean, why? Okay, I get it. Dan Quinn wants guys that are fast off the ball, like Sam Williams is. You know, like Dante Fowler's. He's another one of those guys. He coached him in Atlanta. I get that, but we've got all that. They can't stop the run.
Yep.
Takk McKinley doesn't help that.
Sounds familiar.
It's just like, opposite DeMarcus Lawrence, where I think DeMarcus Lawrence may have played his best game of the season. And I think this is his best season in probably 3 years. And I think he played his best game against the Packers. But that's, when you have a guy on the right side who is playing the run like Tank does and rushing the passer, but then you have the other side and the ends just on the left-hand side just can't. They get hooked. They go over pursue. Dante Fowler does it. Dorrance Armstrong does it. And the offenses now have the blueprint. Just like last year, defenses had the blueprint how to beat the Cowboys offense with the shell defense. Mm-hmm. Now offenses know how to beat this elite special defense, which it's not. They know how to beat it. Run to the left. Those DNs get hooked. And then you know who the cornerback is that you're running at? Trayvon Diggs, who's not getting his fucking helmet dirty.
I know you're saying all this, and we're gonna then transition to the Eagles, and people are like, "Wait, did this skip? Did producer Vince mess this up and duplicate the sound?" Because we're going right back to the same topic when we go to the Eagles here.
But at least you're trying. Like the Eagles are run well. You go out and get Linval Joseph. Like he's 34 years old. Okay, he hasn't played whatever, but at least you're trying to get a run stopper. We're getting Takk McKinley.
Yeah, that's fair. And like I said, we'll get to it because he's a live body, which is pretty much what they need right now.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
Back to the Odell thing, just real quick, because I do think it plays a factor in all of the acquisitions they make, all of the moves that they're making, and the energy of the team. So Odell, like we talked about this last week with the Jalen Ramsey thing. Like we were just like looking over our shoulder. Did we get the trade done for Jalen Ramsey? Just that whole thing. And like you spend so much time looking over your shoulder that you don't look at what's right in front of you. Like when you're distracted, texting and driving, what happens? You run into the car in front of you. Nothing ever good's when you're distracted and you're not staring straight ahead. When you're at work and you look off and then you look back, it's like, oh, I was supposed to do that email. Everything you do in life, like
when you're recording a podcast and the Sixers are on or the Phillies are on behind you.
Yeah, it's like if you had a podcast and it was set up so that right next to the light was your television and like there was a Philadelphia sporting event on, and instead of staring at the camera like you're supposed to and they tell you to, you look off to the left so that you can see what the score is of the game.
Or when you're recording a podcast and then you can see the producer's little camera underneath and he's making his bed, sometimes things happen.
That's very funny. Exactly. So my point is, don't make your bed during the podcast, aka you got to pay attention and
You got to be
can't
locked
worry
in.
about Odell. You just got to go out and compete and get things done. Again, I think they do this week. The Justin Jefferson thing, you have no hope. You have no hope. It's going to happen to you anyway. You think the Bills were like, oh, maybe we should, discipline ourselves and cover them. They had no hope.
No.
There's nothing you can do, but they can still win that game, even with Justin Jefferson playing the way that he is. And
But the way,
just a real quick
yep, no, you go.
Eagle thing on Justin Jefferson, we just act like it's okay now. Like, oh, well, it's okay that we didn't get Justin Jefferson because we got Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. I love both of those guys. The AJ Brown trade was a great trade. Devontae Smith, I have no regrets with that trade up, even with the Cowboys ending up with Michael Parsons. That doesn't matter. Justin Jefferson is on the broadcast. I don't remember if it was Scott Hansen or Joe Davis, but they were like, we're talking about Justin Jefferson in terms of Calvin Johnson and Randy Moss level of domination from the wide receiver position.
Generational
Talent, top 10 receiver of all time. That's what we missed out on. It's not okay. It doesn't matter what happened after. It's still not okay.
Nope. Because the way Howie Roseman works, you'd have Justin Jefferson and somehow you would also have AJ Brown right now.
Correct. All of those dominoes could still have happened.
Yes.
We could have still drafted Devontae Smith the next year.
Yeah. It's not like the Jalen Reagor trade turned into AJ Brown.
No.
So it's,
Hey, by the way, I'm back now that the World Series is over, watching college football. Georgia has a lot of great kids. And thank you to the New Orleans Saints. What the hell were you guys doing? CJ Gardner-Johnson, another interception. And well, at least the Saints have their first round pick since they're picking top 5. Nope. I can't wait to see what kid from Georgia we get this time. Cannot wait.
Unbelievable that the Eagles have the number 4 pick right now.
The Saints should never deal with us again. Ever.
No.
When we're
Doing
dead
the deal
and
with
gone.
the devil.
In 20, what's that Jonas Brothers song? The year 3000? That's the next time that the Saints should do a trade with the Eagles, because they got absolutely robbed, like kissing Kate Barlow in holes. That level.
Shout out Jonas Brothers doing the halftime show at the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving.
Are they really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's a little plug there.
Doesn't seem Dallas-ish.
No, I don't. No.
Seems like a SoFi Stadium thing.
I don't understand why it's not Post Malone. All he does is love the Cowboys and he's at practice all the time.
I think he's on tour, because I was going to send it to you to make fun of you. He obviously everybody has a stage design. And he was using his stage design video to watch the Cowboys game against the Packers. And put a couch out there. And I was like, imagine having this big of a screen to watch your team blow a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter. So luckily, he's on tour, or else I'm sure he would do it. But that's a great point. It's so
luckily
so
I
easy.
was only watching on my phone.
Yet.
Luckily, my screen was very small while I was giving my daughter her bottle. That's just, parenting has definitely given me patience with this. Yeah, I don't get as angry anymore. It's interesting.
I guess I have to have a kid.
Yeah,
I was pretty pissed after that game on Monday.
Because I'm sitting there, I'm like, you mother fucking son of a bitch, and I just hold this little baby up, and she's like, I'm like, why do I care about 52 grown ass men who don't know me? This is what it's about. But whatever. I have a podcast about football, not about babies. So football does matter to me.
I don't know. You're making some solid points, because there's a lot of times where there's 15 grown men who can't put a ball in a hoop and 53 grown men who fumble after 60-yard completions. And they get me a little angry. So maybe I need to start that process.
I'll just let you borrow mine for 3 hours, because I'd probably actually more like 30 minutes, and you'll probably be good. Maybe 10.
Yeah, probably.
What do I do?
One throw up on me, and I'm like, okay, well, this is fun. I'd rather just be angry about the game.
It pooped. Oh, all right. So, yeah, I don't know where to go with this, because the way that they can win this game, and like you said, they don't have hope against Justin Jefferson, right? We'll see about Dalvin Cook. They need to be able to stop the run game. They've been able. Dalvin Cook has slashed them, and then at the same time, they've had games where they were able to continue to contain Dalvin Cook. Look, they won on Halloween last year with Cooper Rush. This is actually the third time CeeDee Lamb is playing at Minnesota. The first time he'll be playing with Dak Prescott as his quarterback there. So interesting. I think CeeDee's coming off his, Jerry Jones says, his best game as a Cowboy. Definitely his best game of the year. He looked like a number one wide receiver on Sunday.
I was going to say the Packers, their problem has not been the secondary. I thought that was a pretty dominant performance from CD, to be honest with you. So
besides the one where he was supposed to flatten out and it ended up being an interception, actually second week in a row they had the same exact throw to CD where he didn't flatten out, and it was a pick against the Bears as well. I mean, that's just communication. That's also, I think, just two guys, because that's one of those, what do they call it? Like a not a hope route. I think they do call it a hope, like a wish route that you see it the same way. They just didn't see the play the same way. They didn't see the safety.
It's almost like they have a coaching staff that doesn't preach attention to detail.
Yeah, almost like. And it's interesting when I was listening to the radio too. Like, oh, I guarantee what happened in this play, right, is that they practiced it 3 or 4 times in the week and it connected each time. But that's because the coaching staff was telling the safety to hang back. And then in the game situation, oh shit, the safety didn't hang back.
That's how my math tests would go. I would do the practice problems that they would give you. And then I'd be like, hold on, excuse me, the numbers and letters are different on the test than my practice problems. I only know how to do the practice problems.
Yep.
That's the Cowboys. That's their receiving core right now.
100%. So that's the receiving core, right? They also have an issue with Justin Jefferson. So what's a good way to try and win this game, Aiden? I don't know.
Tony
Run
Pollard.
The ball?
Yes, correct. It's Tony Pollard. And even if Zeke's back, this is it. It's 6. You can do the split. Everybody does the split now. It's got to be 60-40 Pollard. It's got to be.
7 yards a clip he was getting against the Packers.
Incredible. And you can give, and it's actually great that you have Zeke. Like, you can spell Pollard. He doesn't have to, and that'll give him more burst. If you're not, he's not Derrick Henry. You're not going to give him the ball 30 times. But he's got to be the number one.
100%. Like, that's what the offensive game plan needs to be based around. Stop acting like, I'm going to get crushed for this. Dak Prescott is not Patrick Mahomes. Why are we going out there and making him sling it 46 times when he doesn't have to, when you have a running game like that? And also, why are you having him sling 46 times to CeeDee Lamb, a one-legged Michael Gallup, a rookie who can't line up on sides, and a couple tight ends? Like, run the fucking ball.
I know.
And if that, if they would have, like, I think you and I talked about this also on the post-game show for the Cowboys game, the instant reaction show. Watch YouTube.
Yes.
The play calling situation in overtime that angered us the most, right, was not the play where CeeDee Lamb got the pass interference. What was it, Aidan?
It was the play before that, the fact that they didn't run the ball, and it set up the pass interference situation where they were in an obvious passing down on 4th down, where a lot of times you'll see if it's 4-down territory, you run on the 3rd, knowing you have another chance on 4th.
Especially if you're running at 7 yards a clip.
Yes, that too. Just run it anytime when you're getting 7 yards a carry.
It's just, there's times where it's okay to be boring, Kellen Moore. You don't have to be this cute, fancy, sophisticated, smart guy, right? Just run, do what works. I don't know if you see this or not, but it seems like the cycle is turning again. And like, teams are starting to take away the pass in the defense, which is bringing the running game back. Everything evolves, right? And scoring is down. I think big mauling offensive linemen and good running backs are going to start getting drafted higher and higher again because the league is turning again. The league is changing. So you have the weapons to do it right now. So do it. So,
I agree.
Can they go into Minnesota and win? Yes, I think they can. Is this the type of game that they're going to pull off? Probably. But at the same time, I'm terrified. for 3 reasons: Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, and Kellen Moore.
And then you have a short week and you go right back at it on Thursday.
And then we have the last thing about the Cowboys. So we'll see. There were some injuries, right? Anthony Brown had the concussion. See if he's back. They really need Anthony Barr back, and I'm sure he's going to want to play in this game. Obviously, going against his former team in the Vikings.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Now, an interesting one about this. I don't know if you heard this. Tyron Smith has been practicing. His apparent game to come back is going to be the Colts game. Get some work in, and then he's going to be full go for the Houston game, they're hoping, at left tackle. They're going to take the rookie out, who's been playing very well, and apparently try and bump him into left guard because Jason Peters has not been playing at guard again. He has been strictly practicing at left tackle, which tells me he will be Tyron Smith's backup probably for the quarter and a half that Tyron Smith is healthy. And they're bumping the rookie inside to guard, who's been playing very well at tackle. Again, it just boggles my mind.
Just the only thing I can think is they're trying to get the 5 best offensive linemen on the field, no matter what.
For a quarter and a half.
Until it goes wrong. But yeah.
So I'm going to talk about it next week, but it's interesting too. The Cowboys can't stop the run. They're playing Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor. They have Damon Pierce left. They have Travis Etienne to play. They have Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts to play still. They have Robinson and Gibson to play. So these teams know how to beat you now. Good luck.
You could not have had a more perfect transition from the Cowboys to the Eagles, talking about the string of running backs that you're about to play when your biggest red flag weakness is the run defense. So let's do it. What did I tell you before? I think this team's really talented, but where do I think things could go wrong?
Up the middle, running game.
That and injuries. And just the injuries that could occur. The NFL is fickle. It's really hard. It's a marathon. And it's just so hard to make it through. And it just takes 1, 2, 3 guys here and there. And all of a sudden, things look a lot different. Well, we saw right away Jordan Davis, the impact of not having him out there. Wow.
Huge.
That's substantial. That is bad. It's bad. They've given up 100.
Do you think the Linval Joseph signing is just a temporary plug, or do you think they know something that Jordan Davis is going to be out longer than they think?
So I think it's a temporary plug. We've had multiple defensive tackles go on IR now because I can't pronounce his name, but Eagles fans, we have good fans, so they can just trust me that they know who it is. Let me see if I can pronounce his name. I'm just going to embarrass myself anyways. I don't have it. I'm scared to pronounce it. Can't do it. Anyways, they have multiple defensive tackles on the IR. So I think it's just a matter of they don't have any depth. And it's more so like Fletcher Cox played 70 snaps. They were ineffective. And then today he was like, do you want the candid truth? He quote said, I feel like shit. That's not promising.
Cox.
It's not like he played well. He has been insanely ineffective. Mm-hmm. It's scary. It's a huge red flag. They were able to cover up with Jordan Davis, but now he's gone. And I just think I think this is an insanely talented team, and the only thing holding them back is injuries. Well, now you got 3 big ones. Vontae Maddox went on IR before the game. Jordan Davis went on IR 2 weeks ago, and Dallas Goedert is on IR now. So it's rough.
I saw something on Twitter too that it's time to take the wrapping off Nakobe Dean and throw him out there, but I don't think this is the time you do that.
So they want to do that because and kind of shift defensive scheme because linebackers are having to come up and make the tackles anyway. So they're saying put Nakobe Dean in, go heavier on linebacker. I just don't know if that's sustainable. Like that's not fixing your problem.
No.
That's obviously I love Nakobe Dean. Yeah, I was gonna say that's not a great solution to your issues that you have. It's just not. I like him. I think he should get some more snaps, but that's not the reason he should get more snaps. Is because you want to go linebacker heavy because they're having to make the tackles because the defensive line is not. That's not how it's going to work.
And I don't think you want his NFL career to start behind a shitty defensive line. Let him start once Jordan Davis is back and get the flow of the game.
The whole formula. It's been the whole formula. It won Georgia a national championship. Can't wait to have another national championship Georgia kid on the team next year. But yeah, exactly. So come on. I don't think that's a solution. And I love Nakobe Dean. So that's the big thing. And we're in the same situation as you. It's Jonathan Taylor this week. It's Aaron Jones the following week. It's Derrick Henry after that. We've got Saquon twice still. What's that?
I said, yep, we got Derrick Henry too.
Derrick Henry, yeah. My God. I'm not looking forward to that.
And Dallas plays in Tennessee, and it's going to be cold in December there.
I wonder what they're going to do. It's just rough because it wasn't like the Commanders were insanely effective running the ball. It wasn't a situation like Pollard having 7 yards per carry for the Cowboys. Brian Robinson was getting but it was constantly third and
3.5, I think I saw.
Yeah, they were 4 yard carrying you to death.
Yep.
And you couldn't get them behind the sticks when they were running the ball. And that's rough because then when you play Derrick Henry, you don't even need him to go off and have that tractorcito beast mode moment where he runs for 65 yards and careens 3 of your guys into the turf. Like he just has to keep falling forward for 4 and 5. And then all of a sudden, this incredible offense that we have isn't on the field. That's what worries me, is that a guy can just do that to you and who hasn't been shot in the leg and has a little bit more boost right now. And it's 5, it's 4, it's 2nd and 3, it's 3rd and 2, it's 3rd and 1, and it's just easy to convert, and you can't get off the field, and it turns into these marathon drives. That's what I'm worried about. But it's just injuries. Like if Jordan Davis comes back, I'll feel better. This is a really talented team. It's our first time having to cope with a realistic issue so far this year.
How do you lose to a team that is significantly, I would say, worse than you? And I would say Washington is significantly worse than the Eagles. Time of possession and 3rd down conversions. Correct. And they had 40 minutes of time of possession, and it seemed like they converted almost every single 3rd down.
They were 12 for their first 15. One of those they would later convert on 4th down, so that's basically 13 out of 15. So better than 80%. They had a 16-play drive in the first half. We had 16 plays total in the first half. You want to know how to slow down A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, all of those guys?
Keep them over
Don't let them on the field.
Yep.
When people beat the Chiefs, that's how they do it. They always show. You always get that sideline shot of Mahomes just like anxiously pacing because he doesn't have the ball in his hands. Yep. That's what they're doing. So that's what you got to worry about. Now, again, it's pretty obvious what a weakness is. I wonder what they're working on in practice. I don't trust Jonathan Gannon, but I do trust his coaching staff overall. So with that, I'm excited. But yeah, injuries is the name of the game for everybody in the NFL, and that's what you can slow you down. Just one last thing on the Eagles here. The Dallas Goedert thing, I think it's correct to say that the officials are not the reason that the Eagles lost the game. Dallas fumbled, but at the same time, Quez Watkins fumbled after a 63-yard reception. They got the ball back and with about 4 minutes left, and they had a 3-and-out. There was a lot of they got the ball to start the second half. It was a 3-and-out.
Just not their night.
It just wasn't their night, and they didn't do enough on their own. Yes, the officials had a really bad night, but the Dallas Goedert thing really frustrates me because every offseason they preach to us about player safety, and then it comes time to care about player safety, and a guy remove the fumble, pretend he didn't even fumble. The guy got his face mask grabbed, turned his neck around. They didn't call it, and he hurt his shoulder on the play. You and I say the same thing all the time. We're just looking for common sense.
Yep.
Okay, that's common sense to be able to review it with your 72,000 4K televisions that are in cameras that are in the stadium to say, hey, I wonder what caused that fumble. Maybe it's because his neck was on backwards. The guy got hurt. They didn't call it. You can't review it in that situation, even though you can review the fumble. and clearly see that he got his neck pulled. So stop preaching to us about player safety if you can't even emphasize it in the most common sense moment. Even if he didn't fumble, even if it didn't change the game, you still fail. So that's what makes me a little bit more mad than just obviously that was a turning point in the game.
And that's going to hurt going forward because I think Dallas Goedert has been the second best tight end in football this season. And losing him for at least 4 weeks, it hurts because it's definitely – he is definitely – I'm not saying Jalen Hurts needs a safety blanket. So Eagles fans, don't come at me here because I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. But having Dallas Goedert
it's also nice to have
really
him.
helps.
Yeah. He doesn't need a safety blanket, but sometimes a safety blanket is nice. Mahomes has Travis Kelce, and it works out all right.
Yeah. So it's going to hurt, but for your sake, it's probably okay. He'll come back just in time for Christmas Eve and have 2 touchdowns to beat the Cowboys. So
Dallas and Dallas, baby. I love to hear it. So, yeah, him, Avonte Maddox, the roommates, both on IR, Jordan Davis too. So you kind of just have to weather the storm these next few weeks, and we'll really find out who this team is. And I'm kind of excited and looking forward to that.
I think our next guest can really help us out talking about who this Eagles team is.
Yes, I agree. All right. Real Mama Eagle coming up now. Like we said, she blogs for Inside the Eagles, and she has her own YouTube and Twitter platform where she is a Philly 4-for-4 person. Tonight, we're getting into the Eagles and the back half of this schedule. So without further ado, Real Mama Eagle, presented by Delco Steaks.
All right, it is now time to be joined by another A-plus guest here on Birds vs. Boys. Aidan, last week we went big-time Cowboys guest, YouTuber, Cowboys fan nation. Now we're heading back to Philadelphia, right, Aidan? We have freelance writer for Eagles News, not Eagles News, it's Eagles News, a Twitch and YouTube partner, and she does so much more. Aidan is a big fan of what she does on Twitter as well. It's Real Mama Eagle. How are you? Welcome to the program.
I am doing very good. Thank you both so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So before we get into the bulk of the questions here, I know Aidan wants to rant about the loss with the Eagles. And, we joked about it earlier that if you look on Twitter, both the Cowboys and the Eagles seasons are done. So we might as well just pack up the podcast now. But we ask every guest this, depending on what fan base they're from. We need to know what your favorite thing about Eagles Twitter is and your least favorite thing.
I would have to say my favorite thing about Eagles Twitter is when someone from an opposing fan base or an opposing member of media says something about us, and then we all go for that person, because in that moment, whatever we fought about doesn't matter. We're family. I would say the thing that I dislike the least about Eagles Twitter is that whenever there is a loss or there is something that isn't 100% positive, it immediately goes from 0 to 10 in 5 seconds right to doom and gloom.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I couldn't agree with both of those more. I remember when Gritty came out and everybody in Philly was like, "Oh, that's ugly," and then the rest of the country was like, "Oh, that's ugly," and we're like, "No, only we can say that." And then it's been beloved ever since. So that's a very, very good answer. But yeah, just having you on after a loss, we talked about it. In a way, it's actually perfect time because we get the rant about it. Now, a lot of the rhetoric and what the guys were saying after the game was it's good to get that loss out. We don't have to talk about that 17-0. Darius Slay said it's good that we had a loss now before it means too much. Do you kind of prescribe to that thinking, or are you more like, no, I'm pissed off that we lost?
I'm definitely mad. It's never fun to lose at any point, but I did have a similar line of thinking. I actually predicted that we would split with Washington and that our first loss of the season would be to a rival. So I'm not really that surprised. Washington came in as a team that was, below 500, wanted to get back into a wild card race. So they played with everything they had, and it just happens.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if I could choose which rival to lose to, I'm just glad that it wasn't.
It's always them.
Yeah.
Always them.
Who are we?
Now, just looking forward, coming up the first loss, we're going to Indianapolis this week. We're just going to face just a slew and a string of really good running backs, starting with Jonathan Taylor. What's your concern level after what we saw Monday night and this past few weeks where it seems like there's some holes up front?
Well, I'm hoping that the Joseph signing does give a little bit of adjustment and help up front. This is a type of team where they have talented pass catchers, but they're not elite pass catchers. So you could probably afford to have a more aggressive scheme with Jonathan Taylor, maybe stack the box a little bit, try a couple things because they are going to try and run. What's funny about the Colts is despite having Taylor, they're actually still one of the worst rushing teams in the league. They actually try to force the pass so much. It's why they're one of the teams that gives up the most sacks. So I would stack the box and I would blitz. If they don't do those things, they could very much get dominated.
Well, and you have a statue back there in Matt Ryan.
Exactly.
I don't know. He had that 39-yard run against the
Yeah, he does have almost as many interceptions as touchdowns. So you do have that going for us. And we get interceptions. So
yeah, it should be another big day for CJ Gardner-Johnson back there.
Definitely.
All right, so I want to shift a little bit to, like Aidan said, we talk everything. We talk full NFL. We talk NFC East. So we talked about on the show earlier, there's a realistic possibility that this division can get 4 teams in the playoffs. 3 we think is probably a lock, but 4 is possible. Does this make you happy? We were talking about it. We love when the NFC East is relevant and good. Yes, you want your rivals to stink, but at the same time, when the whole division is up, it kind of brings everything up, doesn't it?
I'm not going to lie. If I had the choice to have them all stink every year, that would be my choice. They'd all only win maybe 2 games each and it's against each other, but that's pretty much it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I would say for all the people that talk about strength of schedule and they talk about Eagles being challenged, coming from a tough division does kind of build a case that they have challenged and been a bit more battle tested than say the Buccaneers coming out of a terrible NFC South, for example.
And speaking of that, a terrible NFC South, outside of, the Eagles, which I think everybody was saying they're 1 or 2, 1A maybe in the league. Do you think there is a great team out there this year? I think the Chiefs are good. Look, the Bills just lost to the Vikings. Vikings are 8-1, but the Eagles stopped the Vikings. The Bucs aren't the Bucs. The Packers aren't the Packers. The Cowboys they cowboy. So do you think there's a legitimate juggernaut out there this season, or this really is wide open?
I think it's wide open, but I do think that the class is the Eagles, the Chiefs, I still think the Bills and Vikings should be respected, but the Chiefs, despite being really good, they have a very suspect defense. They have a very questionable offensive line. Minnesota is a good team, but it seems as though they escape every week and they never really dominate. And that makes me wonder what it would look like against, in a playoff atmosphere, especially with primetime Kirk. And Buffalo, I love them on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, but not having a consistent running game makes Josh Allen feel like he has to be the hero, thus forcing the ball. Thus why we've seen so many turnovers the last couple of weeks. So every team is flawed. Eagles obviously have their run defense and special teams.
I don't think there's a matchup the Eagles would want more than that night primetime NFC Championship game with Kirk Cousins coming to town.
Minnesota coming to Philly again would be lovely.
Yeah. It's like whatever the opposite of like PTSD is. It's like, but good, just like every good memory you ever had was that primetime game against the Vikings in the playoffs. So that'd be awesome. Not so awesome. Dallas Goedert to the IR. That obviously is a huge blow. How do you think the offense shifts from here since they prioritized him? Do you think it's a heavier emphasis on the run? Do you think they try to spread them out and put more receivers on the field? Or do you think they just try to plug in Jack Stoll and Grant Calcaterra?
Stoll's definitely made some big catches, especially on, second and long and third and long situations. He's definitely capable. And Calcaterra, he's definitely a really good blocker. So I still think they're going to be aggressive throwing the football. But seeing as though you're about to play 4 straight teams that are good rushing the ball, I think this is a great opportunity to control time possession, let the running backs do their work, and then take your short passes when you see the middle of the field open as you see fit. But I would go with that approach.
I do what Washington did to you.
Yeah. Look, rush the ball, then dink and dunk over the middle. Simple.
Yep. I 100% agree. And Miles Sanders didn't get a lot of carries, but it's also we just weren't on the field enough to give him the ball. So hopefully we can kind of reset that this week. Last question from me. It's funny because this topic comes up every show, every guest, and this week, so many other things we had to focus on. This is now the last question. But Jalen Hurts, I think nobody had any complaints from Monday night, even in a loss. Do you think the loss impacted his chances at MVP at all? Or do you think he still has a chance to win MVP this season over the likes of Mahomes, Josh Allen and such.
Oh, 100%. Look, I mean, we all know watching that game, that loss was not on Jalen Hurts' fault. Even on the replay, it clearly shows that A.J. Brown had two hands on the ball, should have catched it. And Jalen also can't help it if his tight end and his other receiver and Quez Watkins fumbled. Those are just unfortunate things. We all know that. At the end of the day, he still has 14 touchdowns. He still has 3 interceptions. He has rushing touchdowns. And we know that he's been much better in ball placement, deep passes, accuracy, and just overall pocket awareness. He has been very consistent. And I think that after all Josh Allen's turnovers, he's above Josh Allen. I could say right now it's just him and Mahomes.
I would have to agree in terms of leadership after a loss. I don't think there's many people I trust more than Jalen Hurts just kind of, rallying the troops in a situation like this.
He's probably, even though he's on very short amount of time in this league, he's probably one of the best leaders from the quarterback position that there is. All right, before we get you out of here, and before I let you plug all of your amazing platforms, you have to tell me in order your hatred for NFC East teams. Cowboys, Washington, Giants.
So I might get dragged for this, but I actually hate the Giants more than I hate the Cowboys, but I hate the Cowboys fan base more than the Giants fan base, if that makes sense. So it would be Giants, Cowboys, and then Commanders in that order. But I think just because how the Eagles-Giants rivalry is gone and the players fight, and it's just been really aggressive, and there's been some really memorable matchups. Not to say there hasn't been with Dallas, but I think their fans just more so ruin it for everyone. In Washington, they're just kind of there. They're not good. They don't really bother anybody,
Aidan, tell her who I hate the most.
He hates his own fan base, the Cowboys. I think they annoy him too. So I think he would agree.
I actually, I'm really cool with a lot of Dallas fans, and Dallas fans, a lot of them can very much talk rationally, but I do like the ones who can call out their own fans. I've even called out Eagle fans when need be, because sometimes you have to do that. So absolutely. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, that DC4L people, get out of here, man. Come on. All right, Real Mama Eagle. Let everybody know where they can follow you on Twitter so they can interact with you, how they can follow you on Twitch, YouTube, and where they can read all your amazing articles as well.
So Real Mommy Eagle on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. I make it very easy, so I'm easy to find. Website that I do my freelance articles on is eagles.com. That's IGGLES.com.
Beautiful.
Love it.
All right. Appreciate you having time to hop on with us. And if the Eagles make the playoffs, we're going to have to have you back.
Oh, definitely. Thank you both so much for having me. Another just poignant guest who is just smart, knows her information, right to the point. And I just followed her on Twitter as we. Did you? Yeah, I've been following her for a while. Real Mama Eagle. I told you she was good to have on, and I've been following her for quite some time. So I told her before we started the interview, I was like, I've been following you for a while, and I feel like we've interacted and just like agreed on stuff. So I was like, it finally dawned on me, hey, maybe we should have you on the show and talk about all these things that we're talking about online. So I'm glad it worked out. I have one last kind of question for you in terms of the Eagles game. So we have a rule, right? When a coach is fired, you bet that team that week. And last week that was the Colts. Yes, there was no chance they lost that game. No chance. None. Zero. Do you think, the Jeff Saturday thing is such a big topic? Is this a 2-week roll? No. For this game or no? Mm-mm. No, it's not. But it was just the perfect. It was the most like follow the rule game of all time, because not only did they fire their coach, they brought in a coach that everybody scrutinized, which obviously, like, if the entire internet's in agreement that it's going to go wrong, things usually go right. That's just how it works. And he was playing a coach that should be fired. So it was the perfect storm of follow the number one gambling rule. Bet the team who fired their coach the game after. Is that a 2-week thing? No. Last week was the perfect storm. But what comes after the storm? A little bit of sunshine. Did you see the report of why Josh McDaniels is not going to get fired? Yes. Okay. So for people who don't know, Josh McDaniels is not going to get fired by the Raiders because they are quote unquote cash poor and they don't have enough money to fire him. Buyout? That's how. That's wild to me. Literally. I know that Davis is the poorest owner in the league. You can see it by his haircut.
But
Yeah, but at the same time, I guess I just don't get how rich people function. Well, Ticketmaster with their freaking service fees after today, maybe the CEO can buy the Raiders or the
So
Washington or something like that.
I bought tickets to the Army Navy game. Bought 6 tickets. 6 of us going. I just put them all on my credit card. Tickets are $230 a piece. Pretty steep, but whatever. Army Navy game. I did the thing. I got the calculation. $296 a ticket from $230.
It's they charge you a service fee and then provide horrible service. It's like what did I pay? Like you're obviously not investing this into infrastructure.
Like $64 a ticket in service fees.
For service fees. And then they'll do like processing fees too. And it's like like today, then you go on their website, the website doesn't work. It doesn't, you can't get service or processing. It's like, well, what was the fee for?
Yeah. Just free. It's like
insane.
It's like buying your little blue check mark out there for $8.
Yeah. They were
that's done, right? You can't buy it now.
No, can't buy it.
So now everybody who bought them, it's only going to be for a month and then they lose it.
What's that? The blue check?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. He could have bought a football team. He bought Twitter. That's so dumb.
And he's ruining Twitter.
44 billion. You could have waited a few months and have the Washington Commanders. I would have loved to see how he ran the Washington Commanders.
Oh my God.
We're saying, well, Dan Snyder is doing a terrible job. Based on the way that he's been running Twitter, I think he could be worse at running the Washington Commanders. It would have been great.
He would bring him right back to the Washington Redskins.
Probably. Yeah. Oh man, he would have fired everybody in the ticket sales office.
Oh God, it would have been awesome.
Oh
hey,
man,
might still happen. You never know.
All right. Yeah. The fans would have had to pay him like Vince says. They have to pay $8 a month. They'd have to be like verified fans. Like
there's a verified section.
Yeah, they'd have like a student
blue
section.
seats.
I always thought the teams should do that. Like bad teams should have a student section type of thing.
Yep. Well, that's if you go to like soccer games in Europe, like away teams you're only allowed to sit like here. Like they have a section because of the violence.
Because you can get killed if you sit in that section.
Literally.
That's why they do
Speaking of getting killed at soccer games, the World Cup in Qatar is going to be very interesting, but that's another topic for another day.
I can't. It's a bad time for soccer. I can't. Every time.
I love the World Cup too, and I'm like, really? Like,
see, my hot take is I don't get it. I don't get it.
I love the Euros. Any kind of like big time world competition, I'm all in.
But it's good during summer. Like I remember watching it during summer, and they were doing penalty kicks, and we were on vacation at like a lake house. And we're like, this is awesome. But it's a summer lake house vacation event, not
why it's in November, right?
What's that?
You know why they're having it now, right?
Because Qatar, FIFA's
1,000 degrees in the summer.
Yeah, and you couldn't have it, and no one even knows if it's Qatar or Qatar still, which I think is hilarious. That's the funniest thing.
It's just
they can't tell. And that's talking soccer on Birds vs. Boys.
Next week, hockey. All right.
Hockey. Yeah, we'll just go around the loop.
Let's bring producer Vince in here. We'll hit up our weekly TikTok power rankings presented by Delco Steaks. And I think there's going to be some shakeup this week.
I was about
probably
to say,
not Vince's, but
yeah. Well, Vince lives for the shakeup. It's going to be a shakeup, whether it's a shakeup or not in the NFL on his. But I have to say, this is the most interesting power rankings we've done all year since even before the season.
Yep.
I think.
Remember when you had the Bills twice?
Yeah. Not looking good. They're playing in 6,000 feet of snow this weekend.
Yes, can't wait.
That's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. I live for snow football games.
How do people get to the? Because all right, so snow football games are the best football. I agree, like they're the best football games. How do you get to the game?
It's Buffalo. They probably have everybody has like snowmobiles.
True, but they're not even in Buffalo. Like that's the thing. It's not like you're on like Broad Street in Philly, which is constantly plowed the entire time. Like they play out in Orchard Park, which is not Buffalo. So
all the snowplow guys are going to the game too, so they're just plowing the route to the game.
That's true. I was gonna say, I guess like you know how like in everybody in San Francisco is like a tech guy. I feel like everybody who lives in Buffalo is just a snow plowman.
Yeah, literally everybody has a plow on their truck, so they're literally just everybody's plowing their way to the game.
Yeah, everybody who lives in New York City works on Wall Street, and everybody who lives in Buffalo is a snowplow.
Literally,
that's it.
All
right,
you either work at a bar and cook really good wings, or you snowplow, or both. You might do both,
or both. Yeah, one of them is a part-time job for the other. Now, is this week 11?
Yes.
Okay. Make sure I don't screw this up again. All right. Week 11, NFL power rankings. Here we go. Normal triangle, not normal power rankings.
Nope.
At 5, I have the aforementioned Buffalo Bills. I think we should be concerned. I think they find really dumb ways to lose games. All the way back to that playoff game where they almost lost. They did lose to the Texans when Josh Allen did a tilt-a-whirl and fumbled it backwards. They do some dumb things and lose some dumb ways. So I really like this team, but wow, can they lose some stupid games.
5 for me, it's the Buffalo Bills as well. Josh Allen has like 34 interceptions in like 3 years. It's insane. I feel like this is like the Denny Green thing where he's like, crown their ass. And I think we crowned Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills way too early. I think they're still a good team. I think they're still going to find a way to get deep into the playoffs. But as of right now, yep, fingers on the panic button.
Yeah, 5 out of the Bills too. We said last week it was kind of like a coin flip what was going to happen in that game, and it went the wrong way for the Bills. So, like, turns out only having like one good player, despite your quarterback who's kind of dinged up, isn't great. So they're down at 5.
At 4, it's time. I have the Vikings. It is time to pay respect to the Vikings. Went on the road, big win. Justin Jefferson is generational. They deserve to be in now. They have earned the respect. They have a big win. They can add to it this week against the good Cowboys team. It is time. The Vikings have entered the power rankings up here.
4 for me, it's the Miami Dolphins. Like we said, they are one of the most fun teams in the league. They can put up 35 against anybody. They are the sleeper team. Aidan and I keep saying it to get Odell Beckham. If they do that, watch out, league. Tua has been playing at an MVP level. They are 7-0 when he is on the field, 0-3 when he's not. I don't know what else. Most valuable player. What else that can mean? So, Dolphins 4.
At 4, I also have the Vikings. Turns out Justin Jefferson might be good enough to counteract what Kirk Cousins is. So, I don't know. I'm not worried because of the Vikings, but they're starting to look like a passable football team.
Are we over the chains thing?
Yes.
Yeah. I was over it before. I was over before it happened. It was just dumb.
It's like it's the new turnover chain.
And Washington, doing it. Was that flight for Washington like just 13 minutes flying to DC from Philly?
Have you ever flown from DC to when you get to DC, when you're flying into Philly,
you're landing in Philly.
Like, we're starting our descent.
So
Also,
literally, they went up there, they put the chains on, and they landed.
He was sitting like coach.
Yeah.
His knees were up to his chest. Like, where were you? Like, what plane were they on?
A Cessna.
Well, you think Dan Snyder's really rolling out the red carpet for him?
They were on Spirit.
They flew Frontier. That's why I was drinking Busch Light.
Oh, God, it's perfect.
Packing Zins. All right. At 3, I have the Eagles. First loss, but still an incredible team. I think they really missed Jordan Davis. That was, as an Eagles fan, that was one of the most infuriating losses for so many dumb reasons that I've ever watched, at least regular season-wise. Does it make me panic in the long term? No. Does it make me pissed off in the short term? Oh, yeah. Eagles at 3.
3 for me, it's the Minnesota Vikings. I'm nervous about playing them this week as a Cowboys fan. They can run the ball. Justin Jefferson is a generational talent. Kirk Cousins, well, plays well, but daylight savings time is here, so it gets darker early. So we'll see what happens with this 4:25 start this week. But as of right now, they've earned our respect. Vikings at 3.
And 3, I have the Eagles. I think that game was probably good for them. Just kind of pointed out the holes that we all knew were there, but now it's like they're very pressing. We realized how important they are to fill those holes, and that's why we went out and fixed some of them, and I think they bounced back and they're fine.
Well, might have been good for them, but it was not good for my mental health. I'll tell you that.
No.
All right. At 2, I have the Dolphins. This team has some horses. We talked about Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but listen, they also completely redid their backfield. Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. This is a great set of weapons around Tua. We think they should add to it if possible with Odell Beckham. They already went out and traded for Bradley Chubb. He got his first sack on Sunday. I think this team can be in a shootout with just about anybody. So maybe it's just because they're fun to watch and they're constantly putting up 30, but it's hard to argue with they haven't lost when their starting quarterback plays.
2 for me, it is those Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, they're coming off their first loss of the season, a bad loss, bad way to win. But the reason I have them at 2 instead of 3, like you guys do, is for 2 reasons. One, they beat the Minnesota Vikings already, and they beat them handily, and they smashed their skulls in. And the second reason I have them there is everything I heard from those players after the loss. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, the complete opposite of what I usually hear from my Dallas Cowboys, whining about the refs, whining about this. They were talking about, 17-0 is over now. We don't have to worry about that. It's time to regroup, reload, and move on to the next game. That showed me everything I needed to know about this team, about the coaching staff, about the attention to detail that this team has. They will be just fine. Eagles at 2.
At 2, I have the Chiefs.
All right. At 1, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Think this is a foregone conclusion that they'd find their way back to number 1. Just made light work of the Jaguars. It just was one of those games where it felt like they were just playing with their food and winning by double digits. And they're kind of under the radar because we're talking about these different crazy Bills games and the Eagles were undefeated and Tyreek Hill's now with the Dolphins. But man, it's the Chiefs world and Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. Chiefs at 1.
The best part about them not being highlighted nonstop is we don't have to hear about Jackson Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes' wife nonstop. Best part. But I have the Chiefs also at 1. I mean, they basically, what a great trade to get Kadarius Toney. He's going to turn into Tyreek Hill 2.0 for them. He torched the Dallas Cowboys last year before he got ejected. So he is a bit of a head case, but I think that is the perfect place to have a bit of a head case. They deal with him all the time, and he's just talented freak. He's got weapons all over the place. Travis Kelce is still the best tight end in football. Like Vince said, it's Chiefs.
At 1, I have the NFL referees. They absolutely boat raced the Eagles this week, so good for them. They took down the only undefeated team in the league. I don't know what other team could have done that other than the refs.
Felt like it, man. It really felt like it. Oh, that was rough. That was rough. All right. Those are the power rankings for week 11. We did it. Another great show. We'll be back with our reactions. We play at 1, you play at 4:25.
Yes.
Sunday night, Monday morning. And obviously, next week is the greatest holiday of all time. Yes, Thanksgiving Eve. But that means on Thursday, it's Thanksgiving the Cowboys are playing. So you might get a little earlier content from us that week, so we can get you a preview for the Cowboys Giants next week. So subscribe to the YouTube. We're closing in on 300, which would be awesome. Let's do it before Thanksgiving because we have reactions and recaps coming up. Cannot wait.
Yeah, listen to us anywhere podcasts can be listened to. Spotify, Google, Apple, On the Moon, wherever you can get a podcast, we are there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, comment. Follow us on Twitter, Birds vs. Boys Pod. No, we did not buy a blue check mark. We're already verified in our hearts. And follow us at Birds vs. Boys Pod on TikTok as well. Like Aidan said, we will be back next week previewing the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. So look for the episode to drop earlier in the week. Aidan, I don't know how it's week 11, but we're here. And you know what? We've decided we're going to continue the podcast. So don't worry. I was just kidding. Just because you people hit the panic button, we're going to keep this train rolling a little bit. Catch you next time.